Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fed Trends Show. This week is about joint ventures. So I've received a couple of questions this week about joint ventures and different, characteristics of them. So I just wanted to put everything together in one quick episode. First off, what is a joint venture? It is its own corporate entity. So you generally create an LLC and two different companies will jointly own it. Now, there aren't going to be, for government purposes, there aren't going to be employees of that joint venture. It's just kind of a shell company, so to speak, but it allows you to share capabilities. So if it's two different companies, one has done software development, one has done network technology, the joint venture gets credit for both of those. Now, they are used for lots of things with large businesses, construction contracts, various things like manufacturing. I'm talking specifically about services joint ventures. And in my world, they are usually because somebody is small business or 8A. There's some socioeconomic set aside that is advantageous that you want to preserve in the joint venture. So what are the rules around them? Well, for small business joint ventures, you need a 50-50 split. So whoever's the small business or 8A or whoever has that set-aside status needs to do at least 50% of the work unless it happens to be a mentor-protege JV. Then the mentor gets to do up to 60% of the work. Now, they can be used, the rules have changed. They used to be only used for 3 contracts. Now that has changed. That meant you created a joint venture. As soon as you got 3 wins, that one was capped and you couldn't use it anymore. Now the rule is you create a joint venture, you have a 2-year clock after you win your first contract. So you can bid as many things as you want in 2 years. And the good thing is the clock doesn't start until you actually win a contract. So you know exactly when the timeline is going to start based on your first win. Now, the other thing that is a change to the SBA rules is the SBA does not approve joint ventures or mentor-protege joint ventures before award. So you'll get an approval after you win something, but you don't have to have that done before you submit a proposal. Now, that if it's a sole source, if you want a sole source to go to a JV, they have to approve that. So those are really the rules around them. So then when do I need a joint venture? Well, that's a question I had a couple times this week. When do I need one? So there's a few different reasons. Number one, if you're trying to preserve 8A work, you have a recompete that is in the 8A program, and it's maybe really important to you. It's important that you maintain the customer relationship, or you think it's very complicated, and you're not going to be able to just put another 8A in front of you and be a subcontractor and have the work go all that well. Well, then that can be a reason to put a joint venture in place. Also, access to vehicles. A lot of people that have won STARS, COSP3, COSP4, Alliant, Oasis, etc. You'll see joint ventures so that companies can come together, especially these point scoring RFPs. It's very difficult for one company, especially on the small business side, to ever have everything they need to have a really compelling score. So you see them there. And then you will also see them, a good reason for them is if you're going to have a mentor-protege relationship with real value. One company is going to teach another company how to do a kind of work or something like that. Doesn't happen all that often. A lot of times, the mentor-protege agreement, in my opinion, is a little bit more of a paperwork process, and they're trying to justify the relationship so one of them can do more work. Now, but that's when they're a good idea. When are they not? And I kid you not, I will tell you, a lot of joint ventures are not really created with a specific purpose in mind. I think people just talk about, well, we should do a joint venture. That way we can really go after work together. It kind of sounds cool, but if there's no plan to use it, it is just an administrative burden. The other time when you don't need it is if you just want to augment your capabilities. Hey, we want to work with this other company. They're great at software development. You can do that. As long as there's not some set-aside constraint, you can do that as a prime subcontractor relationship and avoid all the extra paperwork. And another way, in my opinion, that you don't want to do it, if it's just a way to keep 60% of your recompete, if you're so focused on hanging on to the extra 11% work share, instead of doing 49% by flipping it to an 8A, you're so focused on doing 60%, You should be focused on winning new business and developing capabilities. Hanging on to having 14 different JVs to keep your work is just a recipe for continuing to shrink and evaporate over time, in my opinion. Now, why do you not want extra JVs if you don't need them? So there are challenges to using JVs. First off, administratively, somebody has to go register with SAM. You're going to have just general paperwork where you have to go get your own cage code. There's work involved. The next thing is eventually you're going to need an operating agreement that is a non-trivial document to work out because you're creating a company owned by two different organizations. Who's going to send invoices? Who's going to approve things? Who's going to approve bid pricing? Who's going to approve teaming? Those are things that you either have to spend a bunch of time ironing them out beforehand, or somebody's going to get upset eventually in the delivery and execution of the JV services. Now, the next things that are challenges is your joint venture is not going to have a facilities clearance, and your joint venture is not going to have a GSA schedule. So, it has happened to me so many times where everybody says, let's get a joint venture and we'll go after this. Well, is the work cleared? Well, the joint venture can't bid. Does it require a GSA schedule? The joint venture doesn't have a GSA schedule. Sometimes the government will say you don't have to have the facilities clearance upon award, but if they do and you're bidding as a joint venture, it's a problem. Those are the kind of things that hang out there that become issues. The other category of things that are challenges comes around it's just complicated. Now you have another pipeline. It's a second organization that when you're in a company you're thinking about. It doesn't really have its brand. It's just a paper entity. And so the pipeline is never smooth. People are never sure when they're supposed to use it or not use it. So unless it's crafted to protect a really important recompete, unless it's crafted to access a really strategic vehicle, or unless you have a really good mentor-protege relationship where you think that there's going to be true value coming out of that, just save your time and effort and go prime contractor, subcontractor. It's just a lot more efficient. On LinkedIn this week, there's my analysis of some of the pipeline tools that are out there in the federal government space, and a neat little experiment I did with AI to see if my tool analysis fell in line with whatever ChatGPT would give me. So check that out. See you for the next episode.